Hello and welcome to the 8th installment of my grading of all of the expansion cards in Terraforming Mars. This is episode number 7 on Venus Next. As always, if you want insight into the grading system, check out the description or click on the link in the top right hand corner to get to the first video, where I explain it all. If you want to know how I go about ranking the expansion cards compared to the base game cards, check out the first video of rating expansion cards, which is also linked in the description. But let's get started. We have already talked about quite a few of the worst cards in Venus Next. The infamously bad floater cards, extractor balloons and forced precipitation, or the horrendous mix between Venus bumps and heat prot that is GHG import from Venus. For Orbital Reflectors, I can only repeat what I said about that latter card. These two are very similar, so much so that I placed them together in my top 5 worst Venus Next cards list back when the expansion released on Steam. So I'll repeat what I said back then. Orbital Reflectors is overpriced and the two aspects of this card have nothing to do with each other. Heat prot helps with rushing, while Venus bumps only are valuable in a long game. The only scenario in which I see this being of any use is when you are playing Helion with some titanium prot and are planning on going for a long game with a Venus payoff like Stratbirds. Then you can use the heat prot for something other than pushing the temperature, and you're looking for Venus bumps anyways. In any other scenario, I'd strongly advise you to keep your hands off of Orbital Reflectors. It's an F tier card. Rotator Impacts is basically a copy of Directed Impactors. But instead of increasing the temperature, it lets you increase the Venus. It's 2 MC cheaper, but comes with a max requirement. This actually helps the card in my opinion. Why? Because every MC counts, so paying 2 MC less is valuable. But the max requirement really doesn't hurt that much. You don't want to play a card like Rotator Impacts late in the game anyways, since it gets more efficient with each usage. And if you play it early, the max requirement doesn't matter at all. Also, 14% is super late anyways. There's almost no cards that have such high requirements on that track. Because of these factors, I think that a minimum requirement, like the one on Thermophiles, hurts much more than the max requirement on Rotator Impacts. But how good is the action? Well, you pay 9 MC to buy and play the card and then 6 MC for each usage. That means that with just one usage, it's already as good as the SP, and you can even use titanium on it. If you play this Gen 1 and use it each gen, you get 5 bumps out of it until Gen 10, and pay less than 8 MC per bump. That's quite a good rate. I still don't think Rotator Impacts is all that good. But why? First of all, it takes a bit to reach a good payoff. Gen 1, you get nothing out of it. Gen 2, you've reached the level of an SP. And Gen 3, you've now effectively paid 21 MC for one Venus bump. Secondly, the tempo is quite slow. If I want to reach a specific Venus level for a card like Stratbirds or Venusian Animals, Rotator Impacts can get me there, but only very slowly, and if you play it, it might slow down getting other, faster Venus bumps down. And then Rotator Impacts is of course a pure engine card for a very specific sub-strategy. There's zero reason to play this if you don't either have a huge surplus of titanium or want a few Venus bumps. Obviously, it can be really strong in a Venus engine setup with Astrodrill, but that's a super specific scenario. So in total, I think Rotator Impacts is a niche engine card that is only really worth it to play in the super early game. It's D tier for me. Let's talk about another engine card, but a much better one, Sister Planet Support. Why is this even called an engine card? Every strategy enjoys playing an efficient MC producer in the early game. Well, it requires an Earth tech and a Venus tech. And while the former can be easily achieved by all strategies, as many Earth techs are just unilaterally great, Venus techs are much harder to come by, often not that great, and also mostly engine specific. So Sister Planet Support is mostly an engine only card. But for that strategy, the requirement is often trivial, so it can be played quite early most of the time, and then it's just a plain but very efficient development card. It pays off a gen earlier than Acquired Company and comes with 2 very useful techs instead of just 1. Especially the Venus tech is great on a cheap card like SPS, just because Venophile is always active as an award. For these reasons, I will place Sister Planet Support into the lower end of B tier. Solarnet is another one of these cards that requires one of each of the planetary techs, and in exchange it grants 2 cards and a point. I think out of these 4 cards, Solarnet is definitely the best. Just compare it to Luxury Fruits. Sure, it grants 1 VP less, but in exchange you draw 2 cards and pay 1 MC less. If we calculate the implied MC value of both cards, Luxury Foods offers 10 MC worth in value, and Solarnet offers 11 MC, but instead of paying more for Solarnet, you pay less. Sure, VP can more easily be played in the last gen for full value, so you can hope for even more discounts from stuff like Earthcat on Luxury Foods, but I still think Solarnet is much better. It's a neat little engine payoff that I like to see in my games. But don't expect it to be flashy. Even though it is much cheaper than, for example, Research, it does not come with additional combo potential in the form of tax, and therefore it only achieves a B tier placement. When discussing Rotator Impacts earlier, I talked about how it was too slow in increasing the Venus to get cards down like Stratbirds or Venusian Animals. Cards that you want to get down as fast as possible. For these you want efficient and fast Venus bumps, and one of the best cards for this task is Spin-Inducing Asteroid. This card is the cheapest way to instantly increase the Venus, being 0.5 MC cheaper per bump than Giant Solar Shade and 2.5 MC cheaper than Water to Venus. Of course, the nasty max requirement of 10% Venus means that you really can only use this in the early game, on your way towards one of the Venus payoffs, and especially almost never to secure the bonus TR on the track. But I still like it quite a bit for a Venus-centered engine strategy. As a space event, it obviously also has a lot of combo potential, but once again, the max requirement will often prevent you from getting all of your combo cards down before playing this. Still, I think it's a solid C tier card. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments whether you agree with my ratings, or if not, how you would have rated these cards differently. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And lastly, please check out my Twitch and my Twitter. See you in the next video.